It's 5:34, and we will go ahead and call the meeting of the City of Laredo Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 1 meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is call the meeting to order. Second item on the agenda, the roll call. Let me go ahead and call out names. Arturo Garcia.
Present.
Present. Jose Castillo.
Present.
Jose Ceballos.
Here.
Kirby Snideman.
Present.
Patty Goldberg. Not present. Carol Alexander. Not present. Very good. Okay, we have a quorum. We were minutes of the meetings from the October 13th
Motion to approve the minutes.
and November 10th of 2020 were presented to the board via email a few days ago. You've all had a chance to review them. Are there any there's a motion on the table that we approve the minutes as presented to us. Is there any discussion, changes, additions? Sensing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries and the minutes are approved, presented. Item 4 on the agenda, citizen comments. Citizens are required to fill out an online witness card no later than 5:45 p.m. and can be found at the City of Laredo's website. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Speakers may not pass the minutes to any speaker. Comments should be relevant to the city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Has anybody submitted any request to comment or speak?
No comments at this time.
Okay, very good. If there is, please let us know. Next item is item 5, discussion with possible action regarding the workshop presentation by Able City board members, comments regarding the information presented, and any other materials incident thereto. So we've had the presentation of some of the streets we discussed to receive information on in terms of estimates on cost to work a project. I'll let you know ahead of time that I did ask Able City to show me this information to make sure that at the very least, at the minimum, they are presenting what we were looking for. And they had the sketches here that you see in front of you. So they presented those, the renderings of those streets. And then they did an estimate of the areas we targeted in terms of wanting an estimate on how much it costs to do that street with what we selected within those streets. I think I'm assuming, and I look to the board right now, I'm looking at you all, those that are present, and assume that you've had an opportunity to review the presentation and would like to open the floor up to discussion on the presentation.
Chairman, I would just like to advise you, Viviana did call and advise that she's having some difficulty, but she'll be joining us shortly.
Okay, and she could be able to answer questions. Thank you very much. I think at this point, a lot of what she's presented explains some of it. There may be questions here and there, but I'd like to open up the floor to discussion from the board.
Henry, I have some comments. May I?
Yes. Let's go ahead and start with Jose Ceballos.
So overall, I think they did a great job with sizing back the work. I particularly like what they did, what they're presenting for Zaragoza, for the Zaragoza block. I think that great, but the investment also looks like a good fit. As a suggestion, I would like to maybe offer comments in general, and then kind of come back let the rest of the board offer theirs, and then they come back with could be an action for today. But so overall, I think the Zaragoza budget is a good one. I think it achieves a lot. I would like for it to stretch back to the walkway, to the plaza, or to that block. I think it's 1100 block, without as much, with just maybe some decorative ads within the same budget. The Tangelo Parkway, I think, still needs some work in terms of sizing those improvements back to something that's a little less than that. And again, I think in terms of render, I'm not a designer, so things look great to me. Others might feel that I can improve the design. Now, that's not what I do. The Zaragoza Monument, I think, is probably in the lesser priority for me in terms of looking at the projects, but I also think that what they offer there as a proposal is a good one. The Iturbide Street, I'm going to back up just real quickly. On lighting, I think there's things that can be achieved with minimal costs, doing lighting without necessarily the posts throughout, but I think achieving more lighting in more of the H, the L or the H that we've talked about. On the Iturbide, I personally, I like the monument that's presented there as a placeholder. I like the tag. I'm sure others might have some input. I think here on the Iturbide is maybe capturing or looking at maybe just one side of the street, so that we can maybe do more than a third of the block, potentially take us all the way to on just sidewalk on all the way to the parkway. I think the investment there on Iturbide Street is probably within reason, very similar to Zaragoza. I just think that instead of doing both sides, we just do one side and take ourselves into a potential phase 2 for the other side of the street. That's what the board wants to do. But overall, those are my comments. I think there's a great job done in sizing the scope back. I think for today, I'm not prepared to really vote on the Tangelo Parkway. I think there's some decisions to be made there over costs and investment. But I think we could probably do it, in the near future, next month or the month after. But on the other two, I think, we are in a good place to make some decisions. The monument on Iturbide and the Zaragoza block, I think those are ready to act on. I think the Zaragoza presents itself as a really, in terms of what Kirby's impressed on us over time, activating those. Of course, we're in a depressed economy, but if we weren't, activating those vacant properties to create some tax value. So I like that, particularly like the Zaragoza work. So that's my preliminary input.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'd like to hear from another board member, Jose, Kirby, or Arturo.
Let me jump in, I guess, real quick. I like Jose's reference to what he was talking about. I think I'd like to move on those improvements to Zaragoza that he commented on, to reiterate what he kind of mentioned, to also kind of include with minor lighting and improvements to the 1100 block, which is actually between Convent and I think it's Lotus, kind of like leading to the tack room and the plaza.
Right.
So we could make it a little bit whole, those two blocks. And then all I'm saying from any type of recommendation on Iturbide is simply because of what I've stated before. I do like the fact of the improvements to on the Tangelo walkway, but I think I'd like to see that maybe watered down a little bit. I don't think we need to put that much money into it yet. On the other end of Zaragoza, I think that can wait also. So I'd like to focus our attention on Zaragoza between the plaza and that Salinas area, and then also whatever the board dictates on other projects.
Very good. Jose Castillo or Kirby?
Yeah, I'll echo those comments. In particular, what Jose said about Iturbide. Y'all know where I stand on that. I feel like it's our best opportunity to activate underutilized or vacant properties. And especially considering what we're doing there is very minimal in cost relative to some of the other improvements on sidewalk, which get very expensive. If we can continue that lighting all down Iturbide to the full extent that we've been discussing in the past, not just the first few blocks, but that's a relatively, I think, big bang for your buck. In terms of the what was there, I know that was just a rendering of an idea with the thing with the cowboy hat, the lighting. So that was probably something you grabbed from somewhere else. I'm sure you didn't even custom design that, but I was.
No, we designed it.
Oh, you did. Okay. Well, I was thinking in terms
of branding. It's only a branding opportunity, though.
Sure. And my only comment on that was in terms of magnitude. I had envisioned something that across the street and was more like what we have on Tantangelo, but larger and lighted was what I was understanding that to be a gateway monument. But that's just me speaking.
May I just say that the point of that is that because it's on a side street, so that it could, really kind of draw people. It had to be tall.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
even then, the scale of what I was thinking would be larger. But I'll reiterate it again. I think that the improvements that we make that are, well, if you look at the cost estimates that they provided, I feel like those are in the ballpark, maybe on the bit of the conservative side, but they're in the ballpark. And if you look at the cost of the improvements where we're doing improvements to sidewalk, it gets very expensive very quick, and so we can't do everything. Everything they showed us we can't do. We have to fit that into what we have in our budget, which is $700,000-$800,000.
Right.
So if we're getting to the point of ranking, then I still feel that our priority should be along Iturbide.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
I know we didn't have a link, so we couldn't get in. So I don't know. Did you actually go through the present?
No, what we did is I asked if everybody had reviewed the presentation.
I think you need to.
Let us go through
because I think. Okay.
Yeah, I think that we've seen versions of this in prior meetings, Vivian. I know that this has more detail in it and there's more exactness in it. But I'd like to get you to hear the general comments that are being made and then maybe respond to those, and then we'll move forward from there.
Actually, I'd like to compliment Viviana and her team there. I mean, you've made it a really very simple to understand presentation to where I think we get what we're going with it. We've talked about it enough, and you've made it very, very clear to us. So excellent job on what you've done so far.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. I just want to say that I think since this is a public meeting, I think since it needs to be recorded or something, that it needs to be shown, even if it's fast. That's my only, and you can do it after your comments, but at some point, I think it does need to be presented.
Okay, thank you. Jose Castillo?
Yes, I agree with the comments that were made. I think we need to focus on Iturbide Street, and if we could get more than the 1/3 block of Iturbide, that would be great. I also agree that Zaragoza Street Monument should be done. I mean, that would attract more people to the district. And of course, the third one will be Zaragoza Street between Convent and Salinas. That's another project that certainly I think we can afford those three projects.
Thank you. Patty, thank you for, let the record show that Patty Goldberg has joined the meeting. Thank you, Patty. Patty, did you had a chance to review the document that was sent to us earlier, and would you like to comment on it?
Yes, I did. Yes, my only comment is same as Kirby's. We don't have money to do everything. And my position pretty much stays the same. I feel like Iturbide and Tatangelo should be the focus and not Zaragoza to Salinas. I just feel like that's just a, I don't know. If I had to cut, that's what I would cut.
Got it. There is a point of clarification here, Viviana, that I think it's important to note. So in the page that shows Iturbide Street with the sign and the estimate, so then that entire estimate then is for when it says Iturbide Street, 1/3 block in from Santa Ursula. So it's basically, this is the budget for that circle there that you've created.
Yeah, and I sent you an email. There was a typo. It was 1/2, not 1/3.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I did see that. So it's a half block, and that's the estimate for the half block.
Oh.
And so then and I think we need to clarify this for those board members that may have thought that it was the entire zone that's shown on this map in the presentation. And going to Viviana's point, in a second, Viviana, I will encourage us to put up the presentation so that people can see it. But let me finish the discussion at this point, and then we'll put it up. The attachment that Viviana sent to us, Able City sent to us, it mentioned 1/3 of a block, but it's a half block. And this is why Jose Ceballos, I believe Jose said, the picture looks like we've done both sides of the street, and perhaps maybe we complete the entire block by focusing on one side of the street as walkable, and wait to, for further funding in order to do the other side of the street. And I think that sentiment had been echoed, if I'm not mistaken, by either Jose or Kirby in a prior meeting as well, where doing a side of a street would be good, given also that it narrows the street and everything. Any other discussion?
I heard Patty's comment, and I really, if she's okay with it, I'd like to ask her a question, because
Yeah.
when she may not have heard my comments, but I thought Zaragoza, it has a lot of vacant properties, and I really wanted to hear from her. It doesn't rank maybe as high as it does for me, so I wanted to maybe ask her if she's okay with responding. Why it ranks lower than the other. It could be then and Tatangelo.
I don't know. Well, for now, I did not. I'm glad. Thanks for the clarification on that 1/2/3 block. I like the idea of doing half of it because of the cost of that half block. And as far as your question, I just feel like, I feel like Tatangelo Parkway, it's going to be like a huge immediate impact on that whole zone. And I think that connecting along with the Iturbide, the part that's already pretty much developed, would just make an instant impact, like now. And I think the other one, although it's beautiful, it's beautifying that street, I don't think it's really going to make much of an impact as far as traffic or people hanging out or anything. But I do get the point that whole street is undeveloped. I mean, it's empty location. So, that's just my thinking. I'm going for the immediate impact.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
Rather than trying to spread ourselves out. in different areas.
Well, I will add that I think this this goes back to a comment that Kirby made a couple of times at a couple of meetings, that given the budget, focusing on an impact area is important, whether we decide, let's say, Zaragoza from Salinas through Convent to Flores, or be it Iturbide from Santa Úrsula all the way to Tangelo, because then that causes us to focus on an area of impact. One or the other. So let's assume we did a sign, the signs that were suggested on Zaragoza and Iturbide as an entryway or a gateway. Those can be budgeted in, but after that, it's almost one or the other. It's either Zaragoza 2-block area, Iturbide 2-block area, or Tangelo Parkway 2-block area before we've exhausted a good half to 3/4 of the budget.
Well, as we're thinking through that, I'll reiterate what I've said before because it sounded like it's been helpful. If we really want to measure the job of the Ters, the way that we measure it 5 years from now or 10 years from now, the data will be even better, is we look at the Webb County assessor's data and we say, did the assessment of these values of these properties where we're making these improvements, or the streets we're making these improvements, did it go up? Did the assessor come by and say, oh, look, and by the way, it's not as sophisticated as a process as you might think, although some of y'all might realize how not sophisticated it can be. But somebody might look and realize, oh, look, there's investment happening in this building. Oh, okay, well, we need to reassess it. And so if an assessor can recognize there's value here, that's because there is, it's being leased out and renovated, or a new buyer comes in and buys it. And why would they do that? Why would someone want to do that? Because they're locating their business here, or they're reinvesting in the area. But ultimately, they're doing it because there's more activity and there's something drawing them there. And so if we make an investment that increases activity or has the feeling or encouragement like it's increasing activity, for instance, lighting up Iturbide or putting in a big monument that calls attention to this place, then it's not necessarily really we're worried about more foot traffic. It's where we want to know about the people wanting to come down and locate in this, or make a business here, or lease a property, or renovate a property. That's our target audience, those people, because those people are going to bring value. That value is going to increase assessments, and those increases assessments, we're going to get that increment in the Ters, and then we take that money and we put it back in. And so if you think about it, in the 30 years we have with the Ters, it would make more sense for, not saying we don't have to do those less impactful things like on Zaragoza, because I agree with you, Patty. I think it would be less impactful. It's that we want to do the things that are most impactful first, because they will give us more money later on in the life of the Ters to then come back and do some more aesthetic things but less impactful things to other parts of the Ters, including places like Zaragoza. So I thought that bared repeating.
I agree. I think to underline something that a point that was made through our meetings over the last 3 or 4 months, and through Able City's presentations and ideas, I think we've narrowed, considerably narrowed the focus area. We know we don't have the funds for all of that right now, and thank you very much. We know we don't have the funds for all of that right now, but we're going to have to not necessarily at this meeting, but we're going to have to select and focus. It just given the budgets that we've been presented, we know how much will be used. So I don't know if maybe an exercise, a task this group has, maybe not even immediately now. In other words, just need a couple of weeks to say, okay, here's how I would prioritize things. Or maybe you're ready to say that now. I mean, some of you have, Patty has, and Jose has, Kirby has too. So I'm wondering what do you recommend? How do you recommend we move forward with focusing?
Well, I mean, I see some diverging thoughts on Zaragoza today that I didn't pick up on before. I still feel that there's properties there to be activated. I think both sides of the block have empty spaces. I know that there potentially could be a tax increment rising from that from those improvements, and as much as I've heard what you all said, and Patty, I think Zaragoza is important enough to put some sidewalk money there. Maybe we don't do everything else, but at least take care of that sidewalk on one side. And it's going to be very close to 200,000 to do that, based on what Eagle City's put together. But
say something to chew on with that. Maybe you weren't here when we talked about this last time. So if it's worth repeating, if you look at Zaragoza and you look at both sides of it, you'll see. Well, first of all, you've got San Agustin Plaza, and you've got La Posada, already totally utilizing the property. You've got the outlet mall totally utilizing that property. You've got Church's Chicken. You've got several properties that are already fully utilized, and you would not expect them to make additional investment based on the investment we're going to make. Right. On top of that, you might also say, how would fixing a sidewalk, even though it's needed, it's definitely needed, but how would fixing a sidewalk encourage a business to make an investment? What do they see the benefit of that? How do they see in their mind? I mean, think of it as a business owner. Would that encourage you to locate a business there because the city fixed the sidewalks? Like, oh, this is a prime spot now. I wasn't really thinking about it before. But now, it's encouraging me to make an investment because the city fixed the sidewalks. Versus something about doing lighting and bringing attention and that kind of thing we're envisioning for Iturbide, plus all that's already happening there organically. That says to somebody who's thinking of putting up a restaurant or a bar on Del Mar might think, hey, there's something going on Iturbide, Plus the city's making this additional investment to driving more attention to it and the lighting. And you know what? I'm going to go check out, I'm going to go talk with some property owners, see if there's a good lease I could sign, I'm not sure a sidewalk would cause that kind of, or at least that's the argument I would make, that it's a less impactful investment, even though it's needed.
All right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, Able City, you've heard our comments as we've spoken. I'd certainly like to hear your feedback based on our comments.
Sure. Can we do it while showing the slides?
Yes, we can. I'm sorry. Can someone put that up? Share that document. Thank you very much, Nadia.
So, yeah, if you can go to the next. Can I have control of the slides or no?
You're asking for way too much, Viviana.
Okay. Okay.
I'm joking.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to say next. Okay.
I'm joking.
I think, Viviana, I think you would have to upload it for you to be able to control it.
That's all right. That's all right. It's short. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that it gets recorded as part of the meeting.
Yeah. So let's call it up, and then Viviana, tell us when to go to the next one.
It's not on the. Can you put it up?
See what happens.
Yeah. Oops.
We were almost there.
I know.
There we go.
Okay. Okay. So this first slide shows the view from Convent up to basically the mall on the other side, of the intent of what the board had asked us to do with the trees on one side and developing it on one side. It does, the street does allow, the sidewalk that's there allows for a wide sidewalk for pretty much a little bit more than half of the block. And we can quickly go down and just kind of show these so that I can get to the information on the other slides. Just go to the next slide. So this is at Grant Street to Tangelo. The point of the work on to Tangelo Parkway was to even out the sidewalk and the street so that there weren't all these different elevation changes that caused a lot of people to trip and fall. So the idea is to just remove everything and have a shared sidewalk with a street. Those Gambion lit planter areas can be used. The thing about this street, and we'll get to it when we look at the cost, is that they're used to help divert water and level out. Until we get a survey, an actual survey of any one of these projects, we won't be able to get to a closer opinion of probable cost because we may not need these very elaborate kinds of planters or planting areas so that we can control those levels. So go to the next slide. This is I don't know if you noticed on the left-hand side on that wall is where we suggested the mural. There's like a painted wall there. We would have to go through Landmark Board and other, Kirby can direct us through that.
Hey, Viviana, on these,
Yeah.
on these curbless streets or flush streets,
Yeah,
are you envisioning raising the street or lowering the sidewalk?
lowering the sidewalk.
Okay.
And what would help, I mean, it's really kind of sloping the sidewalk to the directions that it needs to slope to get the waters out. But this would be very helpful also when the street is used for the idea that the business owners have there is to close them down on the weekends and put tables and chairs out and all of that. Would be very helpful for that as well.
It's accessible.
Very accessible. Anyways, so I just wanted to point that out again on the left-hand side. The lighting for these trees, lighting is expensive. Except for string and festoon lighting is expensive. But this is the lighting that was suggested to us by a couple of board members. I think it works very well because those string lights that they put on trees get mangled. And you really should have them on posts and not on trees unless they are heavily maintained. And we know we can't maintain these improvements through the Ters. So next slide, please. Essentially, when this these monument entry for this historic, probably the most historic, it is the most historic district, an important district in Laredo. It was conceived with 2 rather than 1 monument. There's a parking lot on the other side that was supposed to be constructed with the original Via Antigua. It's essentially the entryway to the most historic district. It is impactful. As part of this project, we're suggesting that the lighting in the top of the pyramids at the top would be lit. You can light them orange for Halloween and green for Christmas and that kind of thing. So they would be interactive in that way. They're also mimicking the church spire. So referencing the spire, and that spire is going to be very much lit up once that whole tower is going to be lit up. as part of the renovation of the church, of the cathedral, I should say. Next slide, please. The Iturbide Street. One of the clarifications or notations that I want to put here is that it's possible. Right here we have essentially at every 30 feet we have a tree, and in between that you have a post for the lighting. You could take the cost of these trees and take them down and put the lighting in the front. You don't have to do it this way. In fact, when we show you the little sketch plan that we did, I'll show you exactly what we mean about that. This would require both sides. Well, in this drawing, it requires both sides of the street to be, the sidewalk to be wide. They're very narrow sidewalks, both of them, but it's a very wide street. So it's possible to really make this a very walkable street because of the width of the street. It's very, very wide. The monument is meant to be high. In this drawing, because of the light post that's there, we couldn't really fix it, but it's supposed to be closer to the street so that you can see it when you're going down in the car, and it's tall enough to be able to see from farther away. So next slide, please. Okay, here we go with more. These are the explanations. And I want to just tell you that, you know, these are preliminary opinions of probable cost. What's not showing here is, you know, engineering survey, that kind of thing. We won't know until we actually get there. It's going to be different for every street. Because of all the little things that you have to figure out. For instance, on all these opinions of probable cost, you know, it's impossible to go out there time-wise and not necessary at this level until you all really kind of decide where you want to go first, so that we can spend the time necessary to go and count the cleanouts and the signs that need to be removed and the meter boxes, and there's all these little things that when they get touched, they have to be dealt with. And anyways, so also I just wanted to point out here that the two areas, number 8 and number 16, those are costs that are included, but they're not really part of this, because what we would do is ask them all to take that cost for the festoon lighting and the poles, which draw the eye to that side of the street as well. Go down to the next slide, please. So again, I mean, if we don't need the gambions and we don't need to spend that kind of lighting in that, and we can figure out, you know, those are costs that you're taking out of there. However, until we do a survey, which I suggest that we do of all these areas really, so that we're ready to do the work on them when needed, that's when we can get to a closer opinion of probable cost. These are, as Kirby or Mr. Sneidman said, he pointed out that these, it could be a little conservative, yes, but since we're not finished with really understanding the entire scope of the project, they'll be closer. So
I took a concrete contractor out to look at all these locations, and your numbers are actually on the mark with what he told me. Because I thought they were high the last time, so I took him out there, and he explained that, which is probably a motion that I will make later, to work with the city utilities department directly, to work on the water meter and sewer taps and all that. And it's not sewer tap, that's sewer cleanouts. He says that's going to be the expensive work. If I have to coordinate that, that's going to cost you money. So, but your demo and your sidewalk placement is on the mark in terms of pricing.
Yes, but I will tell you, I think that what the city does well are sidewalks. They do, and I mean, we can talk to them and see even if we can, pay for the work for the city to do it. As long as we have the drawings, they'll follow them. And they'll be more reasonable.
Well,
Anyways.
one thing to keep in mind is that flushless streets or curbless streets, that isn't something that the city's familiar with doing. We might need a contract for that, but that is more expensive than just, fixing a traditional sidewalk. Maybe that's broken up or extending it. Doing flushless like this is
let me just say that in this case, the reason it's here, the only reason it's here is because of the terrible condition of the street in terms of elevations and levels and all of that. And so,
I like it. I definitely am an advocate, and I really like it. Just it is more expensive. So,
well, remember, curb and gutter gets taken out, so that is also a consideration. That it'll go back into the cost of the sidewalk. But we are suggesting asphalt in the center. I'm sorry? Did somebody else have a comment?
No, I think that, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, next slide.
No, Viviana, there was a question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sidewalk on
Patty, you're cutting in and out. Can you speak it? Say it again.
I have a question on the side. Can you?
Okay.
Okay. I have a question on that sidewalk on Zaragoza.
Go ahead.
You go back to that.
Me?
No, I'm asking them to go to that picture.
Okay. Hold on.
That one.
Go next.
Yeah, I don't know. Question on the sidewalk on Zaragoza. Nope.
First slide.
First one.
There.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My connection is very bad.
We can hear you now.
Okay. My question is, where that sidewalk is, let's just say hypothetically you all did that sidewalk. What happens where it ends? Because that is where it's horrendous, right? And did you hear the question?
No.
Hello?
Where it ends on which side?
I'll try later.
No, let me see if I got
on both sides.
Okay, can you go down to the plan, please? Right there. So you're talking on Salinas and on Convent where it ends?
Right. I mean, where the proposed new sidewalk would end. Isn't that where all the jewelry shops are, and the level of those sidewalks is really high in relation to the street?
Okay. Do you see where on the little plan where it's highlighted in yellow?
Yes.
Okay. So the actual sidewalk, the new sidewalk, the old sidewalk is being demolished. The new sidewalk is going in, and it's adding 5 more feet on the other side of those ramps. So you're actually going around those if you want to.
Okay, that was my question, because I know
Okay.
what they are, and how is that going to be treated? So you're going
Right, and
around
we
them.
would take, well, going around them, but those would actually be changed out because they're in very poor shape. But
Right.
they work, but they're in very poor shape.
Very
But
poor shape,
that
right.
that is anticipated in these numbers.
Okay.
I mean, as in terms of an intervention on the street, they work. You know, I think that there has to be at some point a discussion, you know, after you all talk this out a little bit more, but, you know, really engaging the stakeholders where these improvements are going to be. And talking to them about it. There's really the south side of the street can be done at a later time, as you all have suggested. But you won't. This actually street, the width of the street is actually narrow as much as we can. There is a whole lane for tax. They are not very keen on moving. When their spaces are kind of to them. So really it's going to have to be kind of renovations to the sidewalk on the south side, or maybe you can offer facade improvement grants, which I think are probably more necessary than a you know a facelift on the sidewalk.
Right. I agree on that one. Right.
Very good.
Thank you.
I mean, it needs a power washing, it needs all of that, but that's it.
Any more questions from the board or comments from the board? Okay, it was suggested that, Viviana, do you want to say something?
No.
Oh. So I know that a couple of board members said they wanted to make a couple of recommendations or motions. This would be the time.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I was remiss. Can you go to Iturbide Street? The plan on Iturbide Street? Because I want go down. Keep going. Keep going. That one. In the sketch, if you can see, in the sketch, that's where in the front I have the poles with the lighting, and then behind that, more towards. You can take the trees that are anticipated in this area and move them down. Or you can put them on one side of the street. But in these cases, it would be 10, it would be 12 to 14 trees, 6 to 7 on each side. On these types of, that's what I'm showing here, as opposed to the 5 trees on the other, on Zaragoza Street.
Got it.
Okay. That's it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Henry, I would like to make a couple of motions and certainly entertain discussion on anything that the board wants to continue discussing, but I'd like to make a motion to direct Able City to come back with two to three options for the Iturbide monument, for getting that work started once the board decides on the design and what that should look like. That would be the first motion that I have. Well, actually, yeah, I want to leave that clean as one motion because I think if I read everybody's ready to get on that.
Okay, so there's a motion that we ask Able City to focus and concentrate on the monument for Iturbide Street, the entryway to Iturbide Street. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second that, Kirby.
Okay, it's been seconded by Kirby. So now I'm going to open the floor up for discussion.
Maybe,
yeah, go ahead.
maybe we can just I'll quickly chime in on what our thoughts are in terms of scope. Do we like the size and scale of what we see, or do we envision something a little bigger?
Okay, so I'll comment on that. I hear what you all said earlier about what you had envisioned, but actually, what I was thinking when I first saw this was that if you're coming down, obviously you're coming down Santa Ursula to get to this point, and so if those of us that make a beeline to TAC room from our offices on Friday night, you're zipping by there. You need a reason to know to turn down a certain street. The only reason I know to zip and turn right on Zaragoza is because if not, I'll dip down into the river. Otherwise, you have to remember which street is which. And so unless the sign or the pole sticks up and says, here's where you need to start slowing down to turn into Iturbide, if it were an arch that were further in, I might not see it. So I take Able City's point that it has to be seen as you're coming down Santa Ursula, and that's my comment on that.
My only comment, I said earlier, I'm not a designer. I like what's being presented. I also agree with Kirby that there needs to be kind of like a gateway as you're entering. But I think if we let them come back with a couple of options, we may be able to get all of it, as best as we can.
Yep, you're right. Any other comments? Okay, sensing no other discussion, I'd like to entertain no, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor of supporting the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All those opposed, same sign.
I'll be abstaining, Chairman.
Very good. Got it. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. So Arturo Garcia has abstained, and the ayes have it. Able City, we have first project there that we need to begin focus on so that we can begin the immediate impact, so to speak. Jose, you said you had another motion in mind.
Yeah, I'm going to stay on Iturbide since we're there. I'd like to make a motion that we direct Able City to come back with a plan for Iturbide, that first block off of Santa Ursula and that second block where Siete Banderas is, on one side of the block.
Which side?
On the south side, given that we have a city parking lot we're feeding from.
May I just make one comment about the south side? Where there's the building, shade. So
Viviana, you were cutting out. Can you start again?
Okay.
It'll help if you stop sharing your video, Viviana. It'll help.
Okay. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. So south side, it's probably better to lessen the trees because you're going to get shade from the buildings. If I can come up with something that is maybe on both sides, but one side has one thing and one side has the other, is that okay with you all?
I think
as long as the cost is essentially the same.
Well, I think that's the intention here, that the idea here being that sidewalks on both sides was going to be X price, and the idea was to reduce the price.
So if it's okay, I think I can make a suggestion that in maybe one of these cases that I show you what can happen for the same price on two sides, that on one side. So I'll if we can go for a couple of suggestions, not just one suggestion.
Okay, and I'm sorry, we had a motion on the table. Was there a second to the motion?
For the monuments.
Yes? Yeah. In order to continue discussion, we need a second to Jose's.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that Carol Alexander has joined the group. Welcome, Carol.
Discussion?
Now we can have discussion.
I was just going to ask Jose to be a little more explicit on what you would want them to come back for a plan on those blocks. Are we talking for sidewalk improvements, for sidewalk and trees, for sidewalk, trees, and lighting, for lighting and trees, for what elements on those two blocks?
All three elements: sidewalk, illumination, and trees on the south side of the block of the street for those two blocks. And Deanna, if you can demonstrate, we can do about the same on. Then show us both options. That'll be fine.
Okay.
So right now,
Jose, would you consider extending that, modifying that motion to include an estimate that goes further down Iturbide with the lighting, not the trees and the curbs, or sidewalk, but just to add another option which would extend that lighting all the way down Iturbide?
To what street, Kirby?
Board, can you help me out? What did we talk about before, Henry?
I think it was all the way down to Salinas, if I'm not mistaken.
So, lights, Kirby, the lights. Actually, we have lights beginning. We don't have lights in the third block. I don't know the numbers, but where On the Rocks is, that block doesn't have lighting, so that needs lighting. We can extend it to that, and then you get to Flores, and then you have some pole lights.
Well, I would like to see what it looks like to keep the consistent lighting all the way down. If we have those poles there, it will be cheaper to modify them so that we can stay consistent.
I think that'll be fine with me.
So then the motion has been amended to also include string lighting for the Iturbide from that would go all the way from Santa Ursula to Salinas.
Excuse me, Kirby. Did you mean string lighting or different lighting options?
No, string lighting as they've shown it, and poles to continue to Salinas.
Okay, I'm fine.
Now, I want to question clarification. So we're asking just for the estimate on this project as you've described it, Jose. We're not necessarily voting on moving forward with this project.
I don't think we're ready to move forward yet.
I just wanted to confirm. Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Okay, sensing none, I will go ahead and ask all those in favor of supporting this motion, say aye.
Henry, could you just read the motion, please?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so in the presentation that you've probably seen, Carol, that was sent by Able City, I'm going to draw your attention to the page where they show the improvements on Iturbide Street, which I believe is the second to the last page of the presentation. And the motion is to ask Able City to bring back a new rendering that shows sidewalk, lighting, and trees plan for the block, for the area from Santa Ursula to Tangelo, and then string lighting from Tangelo all the way to Salinas, utilizing what we believe to be even one side of the street, although Viviana may present an option showing how we can, for the same price, cross the street and do a couple of things. But the idea of being on one side of the street so that we're able to do more, a 2-block area rather than just a half a block area. That's the idea.
And yes.
And we're not voting to do this, we're just voting to get an estimate for it.
Oh, okay.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'll be abstaining simply because I have ownership stake on the 800 block. So,
For the record, Mr. Garcia is abstaining from this vote. Thank you, Arturo. And the ayes have it. I'll note one thing for the record. I mean, for your information, Carol, just so that you're aware of it. I don't know if you came in during the first item that was presented, and that was to get a rendering and more information on the what's it called, the gateway sign for Iturbide Street, so that that project can begin to move forward. Question, Able City, regarding the gateway sign for Zaragoza. Basically, the estimate you have there is the price. In other words, that 72,000 is for working that completing the project on the north side and building the new project on the south side. Is that correct?
Yes, it's both. It's repair and upgrade on one, and and that property that sits on is property of Webb County, and it's a good way to go and talk to them about what the project's gonna. They have an interest in it, and they also have a project in mind on the other side where they're going to invest a couple $1 million on.
That's correct. I only asked that question because when we're ready to move forward with the sign, I just want to make sure that this is a budget that it pertains to this sign, this gateway.
Yes.
And I'd like to move forward in making sure both gateways we're moving forward on both gateway projects, and not have to start because it wasn't at a point of being ready. Okay. Any other motions or action that the board would like to take?
Yeah, I'd like to. Go ahead, Rio.
Henry, I have another motion, but I want to wait on the board's discussion. It relates to asking our city liaison to discuss the partnership with the city, but I think I can wait after the projects. In terms of just collaborating with the city on the utility work and demo and that kind of stuff, and also the EDA.
Any other? I'm sorry, Arturo Garcia. You had a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to propose to see if we could a motion to get a cost estimate on the Tatangelo walkway for lighting.
Just for lighting?
What's that?
Just for lighting? Is that what you're saying?
Well, whatever the other board members would want to participate in it. Also, I just, it's a fairly expensive project. I'm looking at it here, but I think we can tackle it in pieces or whatever, or if Able Cities can come back to us and give us a proportionate, amount where we can scale out maybe over the next 3 years. We finish off one little piece and then we finish off another piece, so we can at least move on little pieces, or elements of what they're proposing. It looks good. Like Joe mentioned, I'm not a design expert either, but I think in making some improvements, we need to make them because it is heavily. I do have the mention was that it's a beautiful space for the mural there. The only thing I have a concern is that knowing the two businesses that I've dealt with right now with parklets and everything, they actually utilize that wall to project videos and everything else right now. So unless it can be incorporated or maybe another wall can be selected, would probably be best. But the current businesses that are there at all the Tatangelo walkway, they do utilize it. But so I guess if maybe we could move on the mural.
Well, in another place.
Well, somewhere around there would be fine. I mean, I don't.
Any suggestions?
Or it could be incorporated there with, like I kind of mentioned to you, allowing for the spacer if Jimmy would allow to utilize it and enter into an agreement. Obviously, that would be important. If you could bring maybe 3 sites back.
So if you would recommend, Able City, if you could recommend a couple of other sites, maybe that would be.
Well, I don't even know if somebody backed me up or not. I'm just.
No, I don't that it requires.
So let me reiterate my motion to look at addressing and coming back with 3 potential sites for a mural along any of the areas that we've talked about.
So it's been moved that Able City recommend 3 alternate sites for a mural within the areas we've been discussing. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor say, oh, is there any further discussion?
I know one, but we can't.
Sensing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay,
I think Joe still had some stuff that he wanted to talk about on Zaragoza.
I'm sorry, yes.
So we didn't address the Tangelo, Arturo.
I'm sorry, on Tatangelo, I'm sorry.
No, I'm okay with the motion didn't include action on Tatangelo, right? So, or did it?
No, it didn't.
No, it did not.
Did you want to restate what you're looking at there?
No, you go ahead. I just kind of like, I just want more lighting. I think lighting is critical in all these areas.
I think what you suggested is fine for us to look at an incremental 3-year plan to select the scope at the next meeting. And it can be broken up into the same 3 things: sidewalk, lighting, trees, which I think the trees are covered there. However, we can break that up so we can go from $500,000 to maybe 200.
So if you can put it in motion, I'll second you.
Well, before, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, go ahead and do that, Jose. Put it in the form of a motion.
I'll put that in the motion.
So I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that Able City come back with a phased-in plan for the Tatangelo parkway or walkway or whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I don't want to say whatever because let's be exact. This is a motion. What is it called? Tatangelo walkway?
Parkway.
Okay, parkway. There we go. Tatangelo Parkway, and divide this up into 3 parts. I do have a comment to make. So we're revisiting the zones that the Able City made a presentation on, and what we're doing is we're scaling them back here and there. I think the idea here and is that if we're scaling back, are we going to be able to do them all? I still think at some point we need to, as a board, be thinking about surgery again. And I say this because just add up the prices that we have here already. Even if you were to cut it by a third, we don't have the budget to do them all. So, and I understand that's why we're suggesting the phasing in part, but the hard decisions are going to have to be made at some point, and we're going to have to focus on an area. And more so because little by little, by his saying it week after week and month after month, Kirby is winning me over in the idea that we do need to focus, and maybe not on 1 block in particular, but on a 2-block area, maybe 3-block area where we need to have an impact. And so I make this comment because I think we need to have this in the back of our mind. Ideally, we'd like to do this all, and we've already narrowed it down considerably, but it's still going to be beyond our budget.
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, if we can get down to these 3 little sites that we're talking about, I think the board's already made some good motions. And I think if we can all agree that next month we'll make that final cut.
Yep. Very good.
I think, and not stretch it out anymore, because I think we've stretched it for about 4 months now. So I think that's enough.
And I take your point on that, Arturo, but I also think it's been necessary discussion. You do have to say things and let them percolate. Okay, that said, there was a motion on the table to take Tangelo Parkway of the 2-block area, take the plan that Able City put together, and ask them to come back with a phased-in plan that shows this over like maybe a 3-year period, so that they're in bite sizes, so to speak, and then we would take it from there. Is there sensing no further discussion? Let's have the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Are there any other motions? Are there any other comments? Carol, I'm sorry. I know that I think you said you had a conflict, a scheduling conflict, and couldn't come in earlier. But I certainly welcome any comments you have at this point. The board, all at the beginning of the meeting, had an opportunity to discuss the presentation as they saw it. Carol, I think you're
I'm sorry, I'm muted. No, I don't have. Can you hear me? I don't have any comment. Thank you.
okay. Very good.
Do we want to see if Patty has good connection now? Wants to make her comment?
Comment, Patty?
Yeah, my only comment is we've tweaked or looking at tweaking everything, but we haven't included Zaragoza, Convent to Salinas. We didn't say anything about that. Is that staying the way it is?
I think that was the intention, yeah.
Unless you want to throw it in there, which I don't think you do, right? That's I think we're following your lead on that.
No, I think we should look at it also. I mean,
well, I agree.
Mentioned possibly doing lighting and not the big, not the big picture.
Do you want to put it in a form of motion, Patty? What you want us to look at?
We stand on that.
What? I can't really hear Patty, but are you saying that there's been a new presentation that was sent to us electronically?
No, the one that you had, the one that was sent to us last week, that's the one.
Okay, and that's the one that we all saw together. That
Yes.
okay.
And so
So yeah, I'm surprised at Patty's comment that it doesn't include anything on Zaragoza. So what's happening is that Iturbide is being addressed and not Zaragoza?
No. So no, Carol, what was referred to is the fact that we had made comments on the plan on other streets, and there are motions to ask Able City to refine a couple of things, but we haven't asked them to do that on Zaragoza Street. So the comment was, does that mean we're not going to move forward with Zaragoza Street? And as one of the board members pointed out, no, that doesn't mean we're not going to move forward with it. It means that the plan that's been presented, we're comfortable with the way it's been presented, and we'll either vote up or down on that presentation, unless Patty would like to make an amendment or make a motion to refine the presentation or ask for something different on the Zaragoza portion of the presentation.
And it sounds like she was, and I'm supportive of that. And she was suggesting looking at a scope for Zaragoza that includes just lighting and not an option for Zaragoza that includes just lighting and not the sidewalk improvements, the sidewalk and tree improvements. Is that right,
Correct.
Patty?
And maybe, right. And then maybe going back to a facade improvement for the south side.
I'll second that.
You're on mute.
What did she say? That second statement?
So let me go ahead and state the motion. And Patty, correct me if I've said it incorrectly. So the motion is that you please visit the project on Zaragoza as just a lighting project and not a tree and sidewalk project, with a component that would include a possible facade improvement component for Zaragoza Street. And this motion has been seconded by Kirby. I open the floor for discussion now.
The floor is open for discussion. We can all comment on that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I thought that Able City was going to look at the lighting down Zaragoza, and also, well, I know that because the parts of the sidewalk are challenging, extremely challenging on Zaragoza. But I thought that it did include not just lighting, but also an idea of some trees down Zaragoza.
Can you put that slide up, please, Nadia, so that she can see it?
Yes, but just to, Carol, what we're asking is just another option. So it's not eliminating the option that's there. They did a kind of a full treatment of Zaragoza, and Patty's asking, and I've seconded a motion that says, okay, but just look at an option that just says lighting in addition to the one where it's a full treatment. So that if we decide we're not going to spend all of our money.
If you look at the string lighting, it says $8,000. LED lighting, $15,000. So yes, there's lighting.
Yeah, but I mean, that's very preliminary, but yeah.
And also note, by the way, the string lighting portion relates to the area outside of the area we've been discussing. So if you look at the picture correctly, just for clarification's sake, if you stay on this picture there, right there, we've been talking about Salinas to Convent. That string lighting is in the portion beyond Salinas going towards the outlets. We had been focusing on the discussion because a couple of people had said focusing on Salinas to Convent. String lighting is not in that area. So basically what the motion does, Carol, is it asks, we already have an estimate on the budget to do this project as presented by Able City. Now Patty's saying, okay, take the sidewalk out, take the trees out, and just tell me what a lighting project would cost for this area here, going from Salinas through Convent to Flores. Am I correct, Patty?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm not opposed to trees and lighting. I just want to see how much, what a difference it would make if we cut out part of the sidewalks.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So just so that you know, I don't think there's much to be cut from what we've done. If you could scroll down to the plan in this particular project, it's very, what we can do is take the lighting out from the bottom of these trees, like the lighting that you all liked. That would take money out of this. I'll take so that it's not confusing those two items that have to do, it's about $20,000, I guess. It'll also bring this down because that really is for the mall. To put posts and lighting in the existing sidewalk, we're still going to have to break it and we're still going to have to put it in. And I don't think that's going to be, honestly, I think it'd be easier to do what we're doing than to do that. Because what we're doing is working outside of that sidewalk, even though we're replacing the sidewalk, because it's replacing, but I don't think that it's going to be that much of a change. And if we just do poles, unless you're saying put the poles and put some string lighting on the poles, I don't know if we can do it on both sides because of the condition of the sidewalk and the overhangs, the canopies and everything on the south side. So we can take air out of this, but in terms of we'll take air out of it and we'll show you what we can do by taking air out of it.
Thank you.
And then you all can decide.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna reiterate something that Viviana pointed out, and I'll note it because I walked it with Viviana when we were working with Tony Arce in reviewing this area. The challenge here were the poles for the lights and the string lighting. And what we see here is probably the most efficient way in terms of lighting, because it was going to be adding more lights, more poles to an area that already has poles, and more strings to an area that already has a lot of wires already over it. So this was a nice way of creating a canopy, as you can tell through the picture, that obstructs and obscures the just horrible look of the wires all over the street and draws your attention to the green and the pretty part without saying, look at all the wires there. Although we do see one giant pole there with two large, I don't know what you call those energy packs on the side of them, but
Transformers.
Transformers. There you go. So I think what you're suggesting, Able City, meets the Patty. Correct me if I'm wrong. What Able City suggesting still meets what you're asking for, right?
Yeah, but it might be a moot point by the way she's just explained everything. It's almost not worth doing it. It's either all or nothing, is the way I'm understting it. And so then maybe I don't even want to look at it again. Other than maybe taking out the lighting for the mall. Maybe the mall part, let them do that.
Exactly. So take that out. But we can also just wire for lighting and then come in and put the lighting.
Okay.
Viviana.
Okay.
Patty, would you consider rewording the motion to the effect that look at a scaled down version of treatments for Zaragoza that allows us to still do something there, but maybe not spend this amount there?
Okay, yeah. Okay. I make a motion to look at a scaled down version of Zaragoza.
Very good. Kirby, are you still seconding the motion?
Yes, I'll second that modified motion.
Very good. Okay, so now, is there any further discussion by any board member? Sensing none, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Okay, so I think we've. Second, I'm going to go. I think we've finished with this item on the agenda.
Hey, Henry, I have one last item.
Okay.
And that's I'd like to make a motion to ask our city liaison to discuss with city management our potential collaboration to deal with water meter and sewer cleanouts, and also the labor potential, to start discussions with them to see if that's even realistic to work with them. And then the second part of that is to also officially request that we work towards an EDA grant for Salinas Street.
Jose, I have a question. Do you think those should be broken up into two parts? Because we're talking about negotiating or working with the city on these projects, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to make that as one motion, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay, and I also would add, if you don't mind, would like to suggest a slight amendment there. In addition to bringing in the appropriate city departments related to sidewalks and streets, also the police department, which spoke about a joint project related to security cameras. Because while we're doing some of this is an opportunity to work with other city departments that have things in mind related to security that them, and they can leverage off polls that we're putting up for things like this.
I'm fine with that.
Very good. Is there a second to that to the motion? Very good. Discussion?
The one comment I'd make on the EDA grant, wouldn't we expect that our consultants that we've hired, Able Cities, to be our management, wouldn't they be the ones doing the work for that EDA grant?
So that's why I asked that this not be part, the grant not be part of this motion.
Oh, got it. So it's not.
No.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Any other discussion on, so are we directing that or asking the city, basically the city board the members of the board that are city officials to help us with serving as liaisons for this? Is that what you're saying, Jose?
I think Ms. Martinez is the liaison. Is that correct?
Yes, I am the liaison.
Okay, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. You're right.
But as a clarification, do you want me to talk to management, or do you want me to help also set up a meeting with some of the board members and management? I think that would be a more effective.
I think it would be better.
Yeah, I think if I would help maybe set up a meeting so that not quorum, but a few of the board members actually meet and start talking with management on these aspects.
What I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, you decide on which two board members you want to have participate with you in that discussion.
Well, let me ask the question. I
think you can do up to three.
Up to three because, yeah, 4 is a quorum. So I'll ask, not at this meeting, but if anybody is interested in serving as one of the board liaisons, please let me know, and I'll collect the names. And then, in many cases, we don't have more than 3 people volunteering anyway, and I'll go ahead and make a recommendation that those people be on the liaison committee. But please send me your request to be on the committee by email. And then I'll let Ms. Martinez know.
Call for the question, Chairman.
Okay, it's the question has been called that we vote on this issue. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we have another motion by Jose Ceballos that we move forward with the EDA. Take the steps to move forward in applying for the EDA grant. Is that correct, Jose?
Well, yeah, but it was my understanding, and I could be wrong, that it was the city that was to apply, not necessarily the Ters. So if that's the case, it would be the same thing to make a request to city management for them to endorse or authorize that submission. And then we can decide if Able City is the right coordinator or preparer, whatever, or if we need another EDA expert to come and prepare that.
I'll second the motion, and I'll add to the discussion once you open the discussion up.
It's been moved and seconded. The floor is open for discussion.
Having experience with EDA grants, yes, that's a proper way to do it. We get the city to approve it as a project, and then I would highly suggest we get a consultant, or we pay for the design or that aspect of it, so that way the city can have already something in hand to present with cost estimates and everything else for the grant. Because the grant itself is easy, but the meat of the information is basically all the costs and everything. So.
Very good. Very good. Any other discussion? Comments? Since none, I will ask to show support. Those in support of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. There were no no's, so the motion carries unanimously. Very good. Any other items or discussion related to number 5 on the agenda? Okay. The next item on the agenda is item 6, discussion with possible action regarding the monthly invoice to be submitted by Able City. I think you all saw that Able City had submitted an invoice for the 3-month period ending November, if I'm not mistaken. So that would have been September, October, November. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you all feel you had enough time to review this? Or are there any comments to the invoice that's been submitted?
With no objections from staff, I would recommend motion. Tina, were you guys okay with the invoice, I don't know, you guys got to the details a little bit better.
We have no questions at this moment.
Okay.
No
Motion to accept.
Okay, so with the first invoice, we now have a motion that we accept the invoice, not accept the invoice, that the invoice has been submitted to the board for approval. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, let's go ahead and move forward with paying this invoice. Item 7, discussion with possible action related to the Ters Area Neighborhood Empowerment Zone eligibility and potential financial implication for the Ters funding. I'm not sure who brought that one up.
I brought that one up, Mayor. As being the NEZ rep over here on the city side,
Promote it, be Mr. Garcia.
Now, Mayor.
I'm not mayor.
basically, at one of the council meetings, council asked me to look into, obviously when I came over to building, the NEZ program was in existence, and most recently, about 3 months ago, they asked me to kind of like look into a little bit more details to see how we could improve the NEZ. And in looking at those improvements, I was talking to Mr. Martin Villarreal from the Webb County Appraisal District and looking at how the program was developed and some of the details of the program and how it's implemented and how it comes off and everything. But one of the things he suggested to me when we were talking, he said, I don't understand why the Ters is also an NEZ. So I asked him to elaborate a little bit. And he told me, well, the thing that it kind of goes against, the NEZ goes against the Ters. So if you really think about it, the money that's coming into the Ters is based on those valuation increases that we want to see happen so it can get taxed from the benchmark year and we can get those revenues to do the improvements. But if we have a NEZ project in the same area as the Ters, then those taxable values are deferred, so we don't get them. Because we only get the city side tax, and that's what comes into the Ters. So it kind of makes no sense. It's we're shooting ourselves in the foot per se. So I did want to recommend that we probably as a board and Mr. Chairman, you leading the charge on that, and me from the staff side, kind of having that discussion with council in amending and taking out the Ters area. Out of the NEZ, but not entirely the NEZ, leaving the benefit of the building permit exemptions to those businesses wanting to participate in the NEZ, but eliminating the tax deferment, because then it goes against the Ters. So that would be the motion to have the board support that.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that motion, Kirby.
Thank you, Kirby. A question, and I know we've seen it because Able City has made this presentation a couple of times, but I'm not sure about the overlay in terms of the zone.
If you recall, it's all the central business district, and then it goes and encompasses also all the.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah. Well, I don't have it with me. The Ters. I don't know if Tina's got or Nadia's got a map of the Ters area.
Well, it's most of the downtown area, but I mean, if you look at maps,
LCC area too.
it's 100% overlap.
Yeah, it's 100% overlap.
Oh, it is 100% overlap. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so yes, all those. Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah. May I
Comment? Yeah. Go
comment? Okay. So the neighborhood empowerment zone does give you an abatement on taxes, but it's only on the tax the tax that is paid for for the municipal tax property value. But it's only for that property, and I want you to consider that what ends up happening is when somebody takes that NEZ incentive, the property when it's brought up has an effect, a good effect on the property around it. So there's the potential, you lose the potential of those properties around it to go up in value. It's an incentive that small businesses who own property take advantage of. The city of Laredo, it used to be that the county also did participate. It does no longer participate. And unfortunately, the Ters that we have is only a city, only the city participates. But if we were to ask, like we have, and that will be coming up next month, the LC board to participate, and then if we were to ask the county to participate, then you would offset those monies by the neighborhood empowerment zone property value tax not coming into the Ters. There is a benefit. The other thing is that we can also ask the city, because what we can do is ask those neighborhood empowerment zone applications, those people who apply. There is with Sue. This is when they were actually developing the Ters for approval by the city.
Viviana,
the Ters could ask.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the consultants, I don't know, emotions on the thing. I would be amenable to the consultant providing Sue, who's one of the contractors, to provide us an analysis so we can take to the city to make that determination.
Yeah.
Because this is a recommendation coming in from our web county, mentioning to me like it makes no sense. And our Ters and our duty as Ters members is to figure out how to get that money, basically to be able to spend it also on these projects to support downtown. So if we're going to get no money out of these improvements, then we're not going anywhere.
I think it's worth noting very quickly that the NEZ program for the city has been largely ineffective. It's too wide a program. It applies to too large an area. Most of the time it's used as they were going to do it anyway, and they'll just, sure, you're going to give me my money back, I'll take some money back. But it's not really incentivizing development that otherwise would not have occurred, which would be the real power of an NEZ if it were used. Now, the Ters is also a form of a incentive. Hey, invest in your properties, and the difference in the value that you're creating, we're going to use that to also invest in the public spaces and then create more development that's going to affect your property values and make them higher.
Thank you for saying that much better than me.
It's a different approach, and given that the NEZ program is not very effective anyway, I would say definitely we should go through with the motion, and we should end the abatement in the Ters area, except for the permits. That's a good idea. We'll still give them free permits for the work they're going to do.
Yes. So anyway, more information is welcome, so that the board can decide on how they're going to move forward with this. But basically, if I understand the motion correctly, the motion is that we need to see what the county's what's been referred to here, and the potential conflict is seen. Is that correct, Arturo? And basically deciding how we're gonna address this.
I thought that's what Viviana was going to offer from her side as a consultant to get us that information.
Yeah.
So
I'll send an email out to y'all with some information. I was actually looking this up because this is an interesting situation that reminded me of something in the state requirements. If I'm reading this right, now we also want Sue to weigh in on this because I'm sure she's seen it before, but the language is pretty simple. According to the state, and what I'm seeing, we abatement programs in a Ters should only be allowed at the discretion of the board of the Ters members. In other words, it is the determination of this board whether or not we allow an abatement. So if we decide not to allow an abatement, it's not actually a decision of city council. It's a decision of this board whether or not to allow an abatement. So I'll send that out. Look at the language, but in other words, it's not a motion we need to take to city council. It's something as a board we decide, are we going to exempt the abatement? We've never really made that decision before, so by de facto, we're allowing it to occur, but we could discontinue it as a board if we vote.
So let's look into
That was the point that I was trying to make, and that is that the board itself would have the opportunity to tell the applicant, hey, do you want us to participate with you on the bottom line, or do you want us to let you abate? And 9 times out of 10, they choose the participation of the Ters. So, but that's a point that we can bring up with the.
So that the additional information then, Kirby, as well as Viviana, would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second on the table for that the board get more information regarding the potential conflict between a Ters and the NEZ in order to make a decision on how we're going to move forward and address these questions. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of support of this motion, say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for bringing that to our attention. I think if at the very least it'll educate us on the subject that we need a little bit of education on as a board, and bring us familiarize us with neighborhood empowerment zones as well. The next item on the agenda is item 8, discussion with possible action regarding the Ters board meeting for calendar year 2021. It's that time of year when we present, I believe this was sent in everybody's packet showing the meetings starting in January. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I requested that the very first meeting in January, no, it is the second. It is the second Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, what was this? Okay, sorry. Excuse my rambling. I now remember what I was thinking. So in front of you, you have on the screen, you have the proposed meeting dates.
I'm not worried about the design. It's all opinion. Probable cause. Sorry.
Careful. Some of us are still on. Not yet. There you go. Are there any questions or comments to the calendar? Sensing.
Comment.
Yes.
We can. I just talked to Frank. I mean, we've got.
We're looking at the list.
At the list of things to do for the next meeting. Would it be terrible to go to the following week, or at the very least, we can try to accomplish everything?
This is the time. This is the time to mention it. So, I mean, we can suggest that the first meeting in January be moved down by 1 week in order to give Able City the opportunity to prepare.
Motion to revise as suggested by the consultant for 1 week. Allow them more.
I believe the following week would be a council week. Let me see. Oh, but it's a 2:30 meeting. So, but let me double check. Cause if you want to leave it on the 19th, I want to say that's the day of council.
19th.
Because the President's Day, Tina, or what?
Sorry. Yeah, because if we keep it, so right now you have January 12th, which is a Tuesday. If you would move it to the second, January 19th, that's actually a council meeting date because that's our first meeting of the month, of the year. Sorry, the first meeting is going to be on a Tuesday, January the 19th. It's a council meeting at 5:30. Now, I understand the Ters meeting is at 2:30, but I don't know, being that there's
Viviana, do you think that maybe you could use the entire month? Because I know this is like there's really no more days in the end and for December. So maybe get it all the way to the 26th?
I mean,
When?
the 20,
January?
yeah.
Yeah, yes.
26th.
Yeah, because it is a lot.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, there's a lot of work.
And I would suggest, I'll ask Henry if we can have a little intermediate meeting to maybe a week before or something. Or sometime
To change the January 12th.
No, not a meeting, but like a committee meeting. An update. Yeah.
An update, so we'll have everything ready for that meeting.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, my motion to change the January 12th date to January 26th, and we'll just have back-to-back on the other one, so that way maybe we can act a little bit. Or maybe we could push it a little bit maybe towards the middle of the month of February one to give a little bit more space.
No, I like where you were going with this the first time, Arturo. I like the idea of the meeting being on the 26th and then asking Able City to do the heavy lift in that, because, sometimes going from month to month seems like a long time, and do the heavy lift to be ready by the 9th of February, which is the first Tuesday of the month, in order to continue with the project so we don't lose the momentum that we have.
Okay.
Is that reasonable, Able City?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the motion is to approve the calendar as presented, with the exception of starting the first meeting on Tuesday, January 26th at 2:30 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so then we now have an agenda as presented. I think we've done the next item on the agenda is just the adjournment. We already know when our next meeting will be. I thought this was a very good meeting. We accomplished quite a bit. We accomplished quite a bit. Now that leaves quite a bit for Able City to do. So the accomplishment was a lot of do this, do that. And Able City, I think that's a testament to the presentation that we received ahead of time. I'm going to reiterate the fact that I think it's going to be important for us to meet before the meeting, just as we did this last time, to make sure we're all on the same page, so that when we get this a week ahead of time, it's what the board wants, can start reviewing and make decisions on. Okay. Is there a motion on the table that we adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion to adjourn the meeting is passed. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your comments and everything. And all of you for participating. Have a happy holiday.